All right, everybody. How are we doing? Happy Friday. Happy Friday, potentially almost out of isolation, or maybe not, depending on where you live. I feel like these weeks are just constant Thursdays and Fridays these days. So great to see some familiar faces back on here. And I'm thrilled about this webinar today. I had the unbelievable pleasure of meeting Paula Castro almost exactly, no, February of last year, early last year. And I will literally never forget walking into a room full of people and feeling Paula before I even put my eyeballs on her, and just looking to the side of the room and seeing this gorgeous goddess inside and out of a human. And I remember saying to myself in my head, I have to meet her. I have to meet her. I have to talk to her. I have to sit down with her. Who is this person? And I've been drawn to her ever since. She has a combination of this big, beautiful heart, a very intuitive mind, and she has a way of explaining this ethereal world and these things that we have to do with ourselves and our bodies in a way that all of us can understand, and it doesn't just get too separated. And sometimes I hear that a lot, where you almost can't follow what some people are talking about, especially in the world of inner peace and self-motivation and meditation and things like that. So I hope you all enjoy this. We're gonna use this just as we did for the last ones. Put your information in the chat. Put some questions in the chat. Ask questions there. Put your comments in. Let Paulita know how she's doing throughout the event, and we'll be here to help. So very excited about this, and take it away.
So much, amiga Monique. And hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. I know that it's no mistake that you decided to show up to this webinar. There's something in it for you, and not because you don't know what I'm about to talk about, but because today you are ready to remember. All of us know all of this already. It lives right here, all of the wisdom. You are so wise, so powerful. It's just that sometimes because we're so busy, we forget to pay attention and to go there to remember. So we're going to be remembering together. So I encourage you to have a notebook, a pen to take notes. If there's anything that lands and you go, oh, I've been thinking about that, or I had a dream about that, or that's exactly what I need to hear, just know that your own spirit or your own highest self is speaking to you through me. So pay attention to those words, those sentences, those quotes that I may be saying throughout this webinar. So I am very excited to be here. And like Monique said, we met a year ago, and it's been such a beautiful collaboration. Being friends with her is just a pure transmission of love. And I just wish for everyone to find people like her in your tribe, because it just makes your living so much graceful. So thank you, Monique, you for allowing this space. So before we begin, we get too much over here, let's go over here. Now, if some of you say, well, that sounds cute to go to your heart, I don't know how to do that, my mind is too busy, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, I feel a little chaotic, that's okay. Let's just be willing. The only thing we need from you today is willingness, even if it's just a tiny little bit of willingness, just to open the door a little bit. You don't need to know how, you just have to say yes. So if you are saying a big yes in your heart, just do it. Play like if you were a child. So this is what we're going to be doing to begin this webinar. We're going to be connecting to our beingness, to the truth of who you are, which is right here. And the way that I like to do it is by closing my eyes. You don't have to close your eyes if you can't, or if you don't feel comfortable. But if it's okay for you, just gently close the outer eye so that you can begin to see with the inner eye. And slowly start bringing your attention to your breath. Inhaling in and out, or simply breathing. I don't even like to call this meditation. We're just centering ourselves to the present moment, to our breath. And just notice for a moment, where is your mind? Where is your consciousness? Are you thinking about the past, what just happened, or what's been occurring in your life? Or are you thinking about the future, trying to figure things out, how they're going to turn out, what's going to happen? Or are you in the present moment? Do you notice where you're at in this moment? How you feeling? Is there any judgment, separation, criticism happening inside your mind? Or simply you're feeling a sense of peace, a sense of wonder, curiosity about this call. Whatever it is, just notice. This is the practice of mindfulness. Just noticing where you are in this moment. And breathing through it. Allow yourself to be right here, right now with your breath. We're simply going to take 3 deep breaths to begin this class. So take a deep breath in. And I want you to exhale it out the mouth. 2 more times. Take a deep breath in. And exhale it out the mouth. One last time, inhale in. And exhale it out the mouth. And very slowly and very gently, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. And we are ready to begin. Thank you so much for being willing. Thank you so much for doing this breathing. And you know, if breathing is the only thing you take from this webinar, that's enough. It seems like a very simple thing to breathe, but if you probably heard it before, if you stop breathing for 2-3 minutes, you feel like you're gonna die. So you need the breath, especially as we're going through these times of uncertainty, this weird times. We've never been here before, and so how do you navigate them? One step at a time, especially when things get a little chaotic. We just put one foot in front of the other, and guess what? Breathing throughout that process, your walking, really helps you center yourself into what you have in this moment. So today we're going to be talking about inner peace and that sense of worthiness without having to depend on the outside world. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I am aware that situations happen in life, that some of you are living with people that might not be the easiest people to live with. Some of you are dealing with a boss that might not be in a good mental state in this moment. Some of you might have some physical situation that is so confusing, it's so painful that right now you say, Paula, how can you say that I can have inner peace without depending on my environment? Because I feel very affected by it. Well, here's the thing. Today, we're going to elevate our conversation to a deeper level of consciousness. From a factual point of view, from this third dimension, from this human point of view, yes, things happen and they take us out of center. So today, I'm not going to say let's bypass that or let's pretend like it doesn't exist or put some positive psychology on top of it. But today, we're going to be talking about a perspective that can bring you back to center. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to be shaken up. It happens, we're human. But also that we're going to be cultivating in our unconscious mind that there is a part of us that is the true self that can always bring us back to truth. Now, why do we feel unworthy? Why do we feel lack of trust or fear? in this human existence? Well, first of all, it's our biology. Fear keeps us alive. It's survival. So that's just the most normal thing for our minds to do. Also, we do something else that is called negativity bias. Your brain and my brain is going to be looking for things that could be wrong about ourselves or about our environment to make sure that you survive. That's what we have fear. That's what we tend to be negative. And that is why the news have so much rating, because they give us exactly what the brain wants. They give you negativity again and again, repeat, 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 and it gets ingrained in our unconscious mind. I take a lot of notes. This is my notebook over here. I'm looking at my notes. And I gave this little girl that comes twice a week with his mom, because his mom helps us clean the house. I gave her this notebook for her to paint. And I looked at what she did, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but what that little girl wrote like 1,000 times was coronavirus, 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 the corona, sad faces. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's like 9 years old. She's consuming that information all day long, and that's what she puts in a piece of paper. So that's a little girl, all her innocence, she just put it over there. But that's exactly what's happening to us. We're consuming so much negativity from our environment, and that's how the brain is going to be operating. I know I'm not saying anything too new for you, but this is just the foundation to understand how can I go to a space of inner peace and inner self-worth when I live in a world like this. So first of all, understanding that if we go to that space of chaos, it's because that's what our brain is supposed to do, to keep you alive. Now, you are more than your brain. You are more than your negativity bias. We are 99.999% energy, said by some of the metaphysicians and scientists like Albert Einstein. They were looking at the atoms, and they were trying to see what matter represented in this reality. And reality is matter. The reality that we see, the matter that we see, is 0.0001%. So we are more than what we see. And that's my invitation for you today, to tap into the true reality, the reality with a capital R. Is it easy at first? No, it's not. Why? Because we are conditioned to not feel good. We're conditioned to be negativity biased. We're conditioned to fear our future. But we can reprogram ourselves. There was one time I used to work full-time in this beautiful retreat center, and someone was referring to some of the things that we were saying as, is this brainwash? And I said, well, I don't know if this is brainwash, but if this is brainwash, I choose this brainwash over the brainwash that we get on TV and on the news and on the radio. I choose this one because it makes me feel better. And when something makes me feel good, I know that that's my truth. I hope all of this is resonating with you. If it's resonating with you, you can put a big yes in the comments. And also, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath in and let it go. So, as we know that we are accustomed to fear and to not trusting ourselves and to fear in the future, as we have that awareness, now we move into, then how do I remember? How do I tap into my true inner worth and inner peace? Well, the thing that I wanted to share with you today is that it's more simple than you think. And this is just by the act of remembering who you truly are. You don't have to go take a course about this. You don't have to have 10 years of therapy, but if you are in therapy, that's beautiful and that helps. You don't have to do much. You don't even have to go into deep work. You just have to be willing to remember. Now, of course, when you do the work that I teach and other teachers provide, it's helpful because it allows us to keep our inner house clean. What do I mean by that work? The work of forgiveness, the work of letting go of habits that are no longer serving you, the work of understanding our patterns of behavior, coping mechanisms. All of that work is very important. But we don't have to do all of that work to remember your true inner worth. Now, when we talk about worthiness, at least me, I don't know if this is you, but at least me, I grew up thinking that if I accomplish, that if I'm a good girl, if I behave well, if I'm likable, if I never make mistakes, if I never have a bad day, then I am worthy of a good life. Now that is our conditioning, that is our programming. But what if I tell you today that none of that has anything to do with your worthiness? And that can help you with your self-esteem. Why? Because self-esteem is built by doing esteemable things for yourself. But when we talk about the concept of worthiness, at least the way I understand it in my heart, worthiness for me is the fact, or worthiness for me means that if your heart is beating and you are breathing today, you are already worthy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Just to put it in very simple ways. We can go a little deeper into that. But you are worthy even if you stay in a couch just looking at the ceiling all day long. Now, here's the thing. And some people are like, what? I don't believe that, Paula. What are you talking about? People that, stay in a couch and they don't amount to anything. That's mediocrity and all of that. So I say yes to that. But let me tell you something. If someone feels truly worthy and enough, which by the way, those two go together. I don't feel enough, therefore I'm not worthy. Someone that truly feels worthy and it's living and breathing in that vibration of worthiness would not stay in a couch all day long. There will be so much energy flowing through you, wanting to express through you, that you want to get out there and express your love to every single people you encounter, every single person you encounter. So that's the paradox. Now, but we start telling our programming, no, it's okay if today I woke up and not feeling really good. I'm still worthy. When we tell that to our programming and we have openness for that and curiosity to that, then there's a part of your brain that goes, really? Wait a minute, I didn't learn that when I was growing up. And then you start questioning your beliefs. Then you start remembering. Then you start doing the work. Where did I learn this? Maybe my mom or dad were all about merit. They only loved me when I was being a good girl, good boy. Oh, interesting. And I can see how my parents are so hard on themselves. And this is the process of awakening. The process of awakening is that you start questioning your ways. You start questioning those beliefs that are so ingrained in us. And so this morning, I'm giving you the opportunity to question your worthiness, or the concept of worthiness. What if you're still worthy, even if that day you couldn't get out of bed? What if you're still so loved unconditionally, even if you didn't do what you say you were going to do? What if? And this is the foundation again, and I'm not saying let's just stay in bed all day long, let's just go into a hole of depression and just be there because Paula said that that's okay. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying let's question that belief first. Go into that space in your heart where there's no condition and see what happens. Because when you land in that space that is the 99.99% of your reality, which is you are an energetic being, your intelligence incarnated in a body. When you land into that knowing, so much happens over there. The situation or the issue has been is like, oh no, I need to push myself. I need to pick myself up. I didn't do this right. I should be better. And then we try to be better by punishing ourselves. And that's when we lose our peace. And that's when we depend on the world to tell us, are we worthy? Am I good enough? And then sometimes people will give you good praise, and that's amazing and that's beautiful. But sometimes the world is not going to give you what you want, and that's why we keep getting disappointed. Yesterday, I made a video to promote this webinar, and I was talking about how the world has nothing for you. We have everything for the world. when we having a lot of expectations of the world around us, and the world around us doesn't answer the same way that we want them to answer, we get highly disappointed. I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, but I'm going to give it to you. You can write it down if it resonates. When we're having lots of expectations, especially in our relationships, it's like we're premeditating our disappointments. I'm going to say it one more time. Expectations are premeditated disappointments. So we want to change our expectations for an intention. And what's the intention? Is to go over here and bring the world what the world needs. That's what Gandhi said, the power of one. You can change the world. Be the change that you want to see in the world. But how do we do that? By going within, finding out who we truly are, finding out our innate worthiness that doesn't depend on anything. It's there, waiting for you to recognize it and bring it to the world so that you can stay grounded. And again, I just want to say one more time. Yes, there will be that day where your boss sends you that nasty email, just not being very considerate with you, and you're going to be shaken up by that. But if you cultivate this knowing every day, and I'm going to give you 3 ways to do this. If you cultivate this, you get shaken up, you take a deep breath, and you go back to truth so that you can show up with power, that you can set boundaries perhaps with this boss, that you can stand up for yourself and speak your truth from an elegant point of self. I hope this is being clear, that I'm explaining myself. And before I continue, I like to take another deep breath just because I feel the passion and the energy moving. So let's take a deep breath in and let it go. Very good. So why do we struggle? I said it already. We get distracted with the world. Why do? We need to refocus our attention and bring it inside. So how do I bring it inside? So we can have a couple of tools that can help us with this. Tool number 1, we need to create an environment that is conducive to inner peace. So what does that mean? We need to make sure that we're having healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries, but not with them, not yet with them, but with self. So here's the thing about healthy boundaries. Sometimes we think that we need to set boundaries with them and do this. We push them. No, don't come into my experience. I don't want you. And then we get very defensive. Whenever you're doing this, you're in a state of resistance. You're in a low state of vibration. And when you resist, said Carl Jung, persist. When you resist, persist. And people come to me and they say, Paula, but I've been putting boundaries, but it just keeps happening. And then not only that, I set boundaries with them, and then I feel so guilty. I feel so bad because, am I not supposed to be the helper and the loving, caring person? That happens when you're putting boundaries with them. We're going to start with boundaries with self. What does that mean? I need to understand what helps me thrive and what robs my energy. So in this moment, since we want to do this very interactive, I would love for you to write down the following statement. What are the habits, the people, and the situation that I know work like an energy vampire in my life? What are those things that I know are very draining to me? And I would start with habits, maybe patterns of thinking that you have. Because if we go too much into people, then we become the victim again. But what are those things that you know are in your own power that are sucking your energy? I know that if I eat a lot of sugar, that takes all of my energy. I know that if I don't wake up at a certain time and I just stay in bed for too long in the morning, I feel sluggish all day long. I know that if I am not true to my projects and to what I said I was going to do, and I sabotage myself, that makes me feel very discouraged. So that I have to say, I've learned to say no to all of these commitments to first honor my purpose in this life. So I'm just giving you examples of ways that I know that if I don't do it, all my energy will be draining. So again, examples are saying too much yes to everyone before I say yes to myself, having unhealthy eating habits, being too sluggish, being too lazy in my body, not moving. Some patterns of thinking, self-doubt. When self-doubt comes in and then I don't put it away, it just eats me alive. So what are those things that you know are robbing your energy? All right. And after you write those things down, and it could be the opposite, what gives me energy? What are those things in my environment that if I have them, for example, I know that if I organize my desk, if my room is organized, I feel energetic. I know that if I write, I'm big on lists and to-do lists. I love them for whatever reason. Even if sometimes I don't do all of it, just by writing things down, I know that's a boost. I know that when I fast in the evenings, I wake up in the morning feeling really good. I know there's certain things that I can create for myself that are going to give me that sense of groundedness. And so those are boundaries with self. I know what is good for me, and I make sure that happens. So when you have boundaries with self, then you consequently create boundaries with them, because I know, for example, that if I am true to what I said that I was going to do, consequently, I'm going to have to say perhaps no to my husband that wants to go to town. And I say, well, let me finish this first and we'll go later. So I know how to set boundaries, not because I'm pushing him away, but because I'm saying yes to this. I hope this is making sense. So you're coming from a space of self-care instead of from a space of you are in my space and I need to push you away. At the end of the day, it might look the same in the outside, but you're coming from an empowered state, not the state of the victim. So if you can put in the comments a couple of things that rub your energy, that'd be great to see it in the comments. What rubs your energy and what gives you energy? If you can put one or two things, it'd be fun to see your comments in the chat. Let me see if I can see them. What? No, I did something. Okay, there you are. All right. Wanting everyone to be happy and satisfied drains my energy. Cheryl says, self-doubt. I need to empower myself much more and take leaps. Beautiful. First, clean the house and tidy place and me time. Beautiful. Exercise and a clean workspace. Working out, cleaning, organizing. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So that is the first space. It's the first step. We create an environment that supports that inner peace and that remembering that we are worthy and that knowing that we are worthy. We want to create that environment. The other day, I want to tell you a story. A friend of ours, my husband and I, came to stay with us. He flew from LA to here, and he wanted to do a lot of changes in his life. And so I live in a very remote area of Costa Rica. There's nothing around. There's not even a supermarket. There's nothing. And he's been struggling with, leaving some addictions and, just eating more healthy, being more active. He was struggling a lot in the environment he was in, not because of this place, but because of the friends that surrounded him and all this stuff. So he came here, and in 7 weeks, he made so many changes. And what we were talking about, the three of us, is like, it's so important to create an environment. Now, not everyone is able to move to a remote place like this, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. So, but we can create it for ourselves. We are the creators of our reality. So what can I control that I can make sure that I'm creating a beautiful bubble of groundedness and inner knowing? And we can all do that for ourselves. Now, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is that we need to learn how to connect with our hearts. And this is not religious. This is not, I don't even like to call this meditation. I just like to call this heart breathing techniques. I study in the Institute of Heart Math in the United States. There's an Institute of Heart Math. and they have been studying the heart for the last 34 years. And they have found amazing things about our hearts as a organ. And they also have measured the electromagnetic field that your heart emits, and it's amazing. You have neurons, just like you have neurons in your brain, you have neurons here. The difference is that the intelligence that you can tap into your heart, the intelligence that you can access from your heart, it's an intuitive intelligence. It's not logic. So when it comes to understanding our inner worth and our inner peace, that we are already it, it's very hard to grasp it with our logic. We can get there with our logic, especially when you study from places like the Heart Math, because they have a lot of data, a lot of numbers, and a lot of studies. But since we're in this webinar and we don't have time to go read it all, and we want to access it today, right now, without having to do all that work, just know that this understanding, you tap it with your heart. And you can get into places of wisdom and truth that are so powerful that then when you question it with your brain, it's like, well, it makes sense. But you have to get it here first to then make it to here, not the other way around. And this is what happens to a lot of people. It's happened to me. Sometimes you're trying to understand all of these concepts with your brain. And there's so much programming here that says, no, that's not true. I have evidence that I'm not enough, that I'm not worthy. I've been suffering. I have trauma. All of the stories stored in our brain, which are valid, which we have to honor. I'm not saying don't honor them. Work with them in therapy, if that's what you like, or work with it with a spiritual guide. But also, there is a point where we need to understand that what the brain created, the brain cannot resolve it. Didn't Albert Einstein said something like that? We cannot resolve the problems with the same level of consciousness that we created it. So why do we keep insisting that we have to find all of the answers with the brain that created all the chaos you're in? What if we go somewhere else? And this somewhere else, I'm suggesting to you, that is your heart. Your beautiful, wise heart. Now, your heart has the capacity to intuitively know things even before they happen. All right, are you guys still here? You with me? Let's take a deep breath in. Let it go. So how do you get into your heart? Well, the first step, and this is the easiest step, is that you go into a space of gratitude. You adopt an attitude of gratitude. Now, some people might say, Paola, right now I feel so sad or so down, that just by hearing the word gratitude, I have this friend that one day she's like, don't even say it. I just feel so mad. I cannot go to gratitude right now. And I said, well, I know it's hard right now, but let's start with something simple. Look around you. What are you grateful for? Even if you don't feel it at first. And we started going very, very simple. Well, the weather's nice today. I guess that's good. It could be a lot worse. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that my breakfast is pretty good this morning. Maybe you're there. You have to start very, very slowly and just one step at a time. Or perhaps this morning you're feeling pumped and you're like, I'm ready to tell you everything I'm grateful for. Why? The attitude of gratitude, that energy of gratitude opens the heart space. They have measured and they have seen that when people tap into the energy of gratitude, they create all of the neurotransmitters that are good for you. Serotonin, dopamine, and what is the other one? Serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. Oxytocin, the love hormone, the well-being hormone, and something else hormone. Well, all of those tonics happen because of gratitude. Gratitude is the only thing that produces the three of them in one go. Isn't that amazing? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many gentlemen are here, but we have a pharmacy over here. This is a pharmacy that could be creating amazing medicine for you, or it could be creating toxins and poison in your life. How do you want to use your pharmacy? For good or for sickness? Let's take a deep breath for that one. Let go. So we start with bringing in some gratitude. Let's do it together. Let's practice it together. It's very, very simple. So if you want, you can close your eyes. You don't have to do this with your eyes closed. That's the beauty of these techniques. You can even do them as you're walking or driving to places. And the way that we do this is that as you start breathing in and out, you're going to imagine that there is a hole in the center of your chest. Or even better, imagine there is a little nose in the center of your chest, to the right corner of your heart. And then you can start breathing in and out through that nose. Now use your imagination and see this little nose in the center of your chest, breathing in oxygen. Breathing out oxygen. Breathe in oxygen. And let go. Now in this moment, I want you to think about something or someone in your life. And when you think about this being, or this situation, or this thing, it makes you feel a sense of deep appreciation. I want you to allow yourself to go into that space of gratitude. It could be a friend, it could be a child in your life, it could be a space in nature, an animal, a vision of a thing that when you think about it, it just floods you with gratitude. Breathe in and out. And just notice how you start feeling a little bit of tingling in your heart. Perhaps you feel a little bit of openness. Just keep breathing through the center of your heart. Keep thinking about that thing or that being that brings you appreciation. And as you are there in the center of your heart, open, available, I want you to ask your heart, dear heart, what is one thing? You can tell me with one sentence, one word, what do I need to know today? What do I need to know today? And breathe through your heart. And allow the heart to give you one word, one sentence. Perhaps it's a vision of something, or for some of you, it might be a feeling. And allow the heart to tell you, what is it that you need to know today? And go with the first answer. Don't second guess it. Just allow it to be in your consciousness. Play with it. If you want, you can say to your heart, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And keep breathing in through that center, through that nose, in the center of your heart, in the center of your chest, I'm sorry. We're going to breathe the last 3 times. Inhale. Let go. Inhale. Let go at the heart. Last time, inhale through your heart. Let go. Beautiful. Very slowly and gently. If your eyes were closed, open your eyes. And I would love to see in the comments, what did you hear from your heart that you need to know today? What is the truth for you? It could be that you received a knowing about your worthiness, about your inner peace, or anything else that is relevant. Here's the thing, your heart knows what is relevant for you. That is why it's so important that whenever we engage in anything, in any teachings, in any books, that you always discern with your heart. Because as a teacher, you can suggest a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you know what is relevant for you and what works for you. Let's see. Cheryl had to go. This is a beautiful way to remind ourselves that we're enough. Beautiful. That I am loved and I don't need others' approval. Debbie, beautiful. No, I want you to know people do love you. Beautiful. Let go things you can control. Pamela, very good. Veronica, present for myself and hold space for myself and others. Beautiful. Yeah, and that's the thing. We can only hold space for them if we know how to hold space for ourselves. And Veronica is a flight attendant, and she knows that when the flight attendant says, if the mask comes down, who do you need to put it on first? Yourself. You've heard this metaphor many times, but it's always good to hear it one more time because there's so much truth in it. Let's put the mask on ourselves first so that we can give it to other people. And then step number 3 is that we need to learn how to trust. And that also comes with the heart, by being in our hearts. So how do we learn how to trust? Well, step 1, we need to let go of the need to control it all. We need to adopt that attitude of flowing down the stream of life. Now I know that sounds a lot easier said than done, but this is a practice, and this is where meditation comes into the picture, and breathing techniques, and having an active practice. This is not just a 30-minute webinar that makes us feel good. If you don't take consistent action, we just tend to forget. We know it, but it's just right there in the back of our minds. And then we go back to that 0.001% of reality, and we get so identified with it, and we feel very small, and we feel very unworthy and undeserving and not enough. If we don't have a daily practice of remembering, it's very easy to go back to that sense of unworthiness. So it's my invitation that we have a practice every single day. Knowing without doing is like not really knowing. And if you are a diligent student like me, if you like to study this kind of topics, you know we love to learn a lot of stuff. But the stuff that we learn are only good if we apply them, if we integrate them. Otherwise, we just walk around knowing all these things up here, but they never drop here. The path of integration of all of this knowing only happens if you take action. I wish there was a shortcut, but there isn't. I've done everything. I've done hypnotherapy. I've done the beautiful sacred plant medicine. I've done seminars with people like Tony Robbins, that is like, whoa, you gotta do it. I've done lots of seminars with my teacher, Michael Beckwith, that he brings you into such a high state of consciousness. I've done a lot of things, and at the end of the day, when I go back home and I'm there by myself, I need to apply it. Nobody can do it for me. The other day I was coaching my brother because he lets me coach him. It's interesting because you should say don't coach family, but he's like, I want you to coach me, so I'm willing. And we grew up together, and I remember my mom would insist a lot, you guys have to brush your teeth, you guys have to do the homework, like a mom nagging all the time, you got to do it. And she'll push me out of bed and sit me there, and I'll just be like, I don't want to get up, and she'll just push me to the shower. every single morning for all my childhood years. And she would do the same for my brother. And I said to my brother, you know what? Mom is not here anymore. I mean, thank God she's still alive, but she's not in our homes anymore. Nobody's coming to tell you to do it, because he was struggling with discipline. And I said, here's this thing. There is a part of us that is still waiting for mom or dad to push us. And today, mom and dad is right here. Your master is inside of here. But if you don't ever visit your master, if you have neglected your master, of course you're going to end up going back to what is normal, what the pattern of behavior in the collective consciousness is: fear, uncertainty, anxiety. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. So visit your master every single day before you plug into the world, before you check your email, before you go into Facebook, before you talk to anybody. Go to your inner master and get advice from there, and ask your inner master, what do I need today to thrive? What kind of boundaries do I need for myself? Can you parent me today, please? Take control and parent me, because mom and dad are not coming anymore to parent me. I have to do it for myself. So we ask our highest self, can you please parent me all day long? Guide me. Give me discernment when I'm indulging in a pattern of behavior that is destructive. Yeah. Let's take a deep breath in. Let it go. I feel like I can say so much more, but I also know intuitively that we're coming to a space of completeness, and I want to hear you guys. If there's any questions, if there's any comments, if there's any doubts, if there's anything that we can co-create together, don't be afraid to ask. Know that your question is everyone's questions, because we're all going through the same right now. We're all going through the same ride.
Yes, please type your questions in the chat room. I will get us started with a question. And it was actually asked earlier, and it was something that I know I've worked with you on, is the disconnect between the heart and brain that we have created. Somehow in life, we think that these things are running independently, and you think with one or the other. And oftentimes when I'm speaking with you and I'm going a mile a minute, because that's what I do, and I'm all in my head, you oftentimes say to me, well, what does your heart say? Connect the two back together. So I know maybe more people are struggling with that. How do you either connect them, or when is it appropriate to listen to one or the other if they're not in agreement?
Well, first of all, I would say set an intention. The power of intention is huge. So do you really want to connect your heart and your brain? Do you really want to be in congruency? If that is your desire, set the intention and remind yourself that intention every day. When you do your early practice and you're practicing in your morning or at night, remember, this is what I'm for in this season of my life. I want to connect. It's important to be in congruency, because if you only operate from your brain, you're going to be operating by everyone's agenda around you, all that is expected of you, everything that you learn at home. And most of the time we get to neglect our hearts. But when they work together, because we're a whole being, we're a whole human, right? Like your project, we're a whole human, we're not only brain. When we connect and we have that sense of congruency, and guess what? The ROI of that, the return of your investment of being in congruency, it's amazing. You become a leader for others. You become so strong in your presence that you don't have to do much convincing when you walk into the room, because people can sense that congruence, especially if you're lead people, or perhaps you're a mom or a dad and you have children, or you know, a son or a daughter that you want to lead with a good example. When these two are in congruency, and that's your intention, and through repetition and consistency you engage in those practices of bringing them two together, you don't need much to say when you walk into a room. You don't need to, your presence will be so loud and clear, more than any fancy words that you may say. So I would say, in my perception, let's connect them both. Let's have that intention. How? Repeat that intention to yourself every day. and do something for it to connect. For me, it works to meditate. It might be that you engage into a mindful practice. It could be that for you, you connect to nature a little bit more. Some people like to write. Maybe you start a journal. Some people like to engage in art. It's different for everyone, but do something that connects you to your true self. And this is the crazy thing. Sometimes we're so ready to defend our brains. Oh, well, but my brain, of course you are, because it has led you all the way here. It has made you survive. It has given you all the successes in your life. But you're so much more than your brain. Your brain is a servant. This is the boss. And when you lead that way, oh, your brain can be your best ally. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
It does. It did for me. Again, feel free to post questions in the chat. I will keep going as well. Something that you mentioned that I know I've thought about quite a bit, and somebody did put it in the chat, is the idea of almost punishing yourself if you don't get this right. There's some aspect that I know I'm certainly feeling, well, how do I do it? And if I don't do it right, and if I didn't meditate for the 20 minutes today, or if I did go, and it's this constant punishment of selves. What does that do to you when you're operating in that behavior?
Well, it puts you into a very familiar space. That's why you keep going. That's why you don't question it. Because punishment is what we learned at home, because our parents were doing the best they could. And our brains are always going to be trying to go where it's familiar. So know that self-punishment could be a very familiar thing for you, and that's why you go there. Now, self-punishment releases the chemicals in your brain that are detrimental for you, for your health, and for your growth. It brings a lot of self-doubt. It brings a lot of that archetype of the martyr. You become the victim. You start sacrificing for everyone. And so it brings all this ripple effect that is so toxic. So I would say, if this is very normal for you to do that, first bring the awareness to your mind that that's what you do. And whenever you catch yourself, this is why meditation is so powerful, or any mindful practice, because you start catching yourself doing it. You become the observer of your ways. When we're very asleep, when we haven't done much of this work, we walk all day long like this. And then the gremlins talk in our minds, and we're like, oh yeah, you're right. We become them. When you start practicing, when you start having daily practices, you start opening your eyes. And then one day you go, who's talking over there? Look at me punishing myself. Oh, honey, I love you so much. No, you don't need to punish yourself. And then you start having that, and sometimes you feel a bit crazy because you start kind of having a conversation back and forth. But that is the process of awakening. You're no longer the slave of your own thinking, of your own programming. You become this, whoa, wait a minute, who's talking here? The master comes out and it starts organizing the house and says, I understand you like the punishment, but we don't need to do that anymore. I love you. And then we calm that aspect of ourselves. I hope that answers your question.
Amazing. Yeah. We'll take our last question from Nora, and then we'll wrap up. She says, I think I'm so conditioned that I don't know if my heart or if my brain is speaking. How do I recognize one or the other? Oh, great question, Nora. I struggled with that for a long time as well.
Okay. Your brain, or the ego, however you want to call it, speaks first and loudest. And it has a lot to say. It has all this stories, and he said, and I should. It has a lot of shoulds, and it has a lot of analysis paralysis. That's when you know it's your brain. When you're connecting to your heart, and at first, Nora, it's going to be a process, but just wait for that elegant answer. It's very elegant. It's very quick, and it tells you something, and then it waits for you. It doesn't have much to say or elaborate with. And you feel it in your body, it's like a sense of expansion. And all of us, we need to do the practice. I know that for me, when I get too mental, I say, okay, I need to sit down and I need to wait as I breathe into, and I just wait for that elegant knowing, and then I follow it. Can you tell me more about that? And when you're tapping into wisdom, just one word, one sentence is enough for you to understand it all. That's the beauty of it. Oh, I get it. All right. Okay, this is it. So your brain, your fear will speak first, loudest, has lots of stories, has lots to say, has lots of the past, a lot of anxiety about the future. Your heart is in the present moment, is wise, is elegant, and you'll hear it. You'll know the difference. But first, we need to practice, like anything.
I love this. Thank you, Paula, for doing this. I hope you all enjoyed it. Again, we recorded this, so you will all get a copy of this recording as well. I know from my coaching with you, Paula, I'm so glad you said the line about expectations. You said that line to me, expectations are premeditated disappointments. That line came out of your mouth 18 months ago to me, and I've said that in my head to myself every other day since then, because that was a severe thing that I had, was that expectations. Your coaching is so powerful. Your words are so very powerful. So obviously, Paula is available for coaching. You can go to her website, paulacastrocoaching.com. Something I also learned from your book, she's a brilliant author and wrote a book called Free, which you can get on Amazon as well, both an audiobook as well as downloadable and all the kind of sorts.
And the website.
And the website, paulacastrocoaching.com. In your book, it really breaks down the steps, because I know I certainly was someone who, not unlike the Matrix, I wanted to take the red pill and just have this be fixed. Like, where is the pill that I can take and just be whole? And, it's this practice. It's daily, continuous. Even if you're not getting the aha from it, you still have to keep going, that daily practice of it. And that's something that I definitely learned from your book. So coaching and the book is available. So, your social media is on the paulacastrocoaching.com, and feel free to check her out. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This was amazing. Keep your practices going and keep focusing on your heart.
Have a great day.